next hour, they're going to be the views of Bob Chapman from the International Forecaster, and we're going to be talking about what is really going on behind the scenes financially, because most people are simply not getting the truth. You know, it's said that if you don't read a newspaper, why you're uninformed, but if you do read the newspapers, why you're misinformed, and that's absolutely right, because the major media outlets here in the United States are controlled by what I refer to as the Brotherhood of Darkness. Bob calls them the Illuminati. Doesn't matter what you call them. There's a small group of people, a clique of people, that actually run our country. We've even put together a syllabus that's about an inch thick, called the Membership of the Brotherhood of Darkness. It gives you the membership list of the various organizations: Bilderbergers, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Group of 30. They're the ones who control the government here in Europe. It's the Club of Rome, the Royal Institute for International Affairs, and then, of course, there's international organizations, the Order of the Garter, and there are lots of other covert organizations out there, but under any circumstances, you're not going to get the truth, and what we are witnessing is a planned financial crisis created over a period of years. They planned back in 1980 when actually they passed legislation that allowed the credit card companies to actually charge whatever they wanted to. They knew it was going to happen when they repealed the Glass-Steagall Act back in 1999. They knew it was going to happen when you started selling homes to people who couldn't afford them for nothing down and nothing for, limited payments for 3 years, or sometimes no payments for 3 years. All sorts of predatory lending practices that they knew were going to end in disaster. And, of course, then they bundle these mortgages into bonds. They call them collateralized debt obligations that they knew were going to fail. And then they got them rated AAA. And then they wrote insurance policies on them. So gullible banks and financial institutions throughout the world simply purchased them. And now many of them are either facing failure or are going to fail very soon, and bringing down the economy of the entire world. And with that as a thought, Bob Chapman, thanks very much for being with us.
Well, you're welcome. And again, it's very nice to be here.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say, the stock market's been going up here, and everybody thinks, well, gee, things must be good. The stock market's going up. But, of course, stocks are really determined on the price-earnings ratio, and it should be about, 10 to 15 to 1. And what is the price-earnings ratio, really?
Oh, I think now it's around 22 to 1, maybe a little higher than that because the market's moved up. And that, for this kind of a market, in a bear market rally, I think that's pretty rich. Usually, when you're in a situation like this, the PE ratio usually runs 10 to 15 times earnings, averaging probably around 14.5. And then, as the market further deteriorates to go through its cycle, it sometimes gets down to 6 to 1 or 10 to 1. And so we haven't approached anywhere near the bottom yet. And, what market have you ever heard of that goes up over 200 points because General Motors went bankrupt? Maybe we should have a bankruptcy every day so the market will go up 200 points every day.
Well, what's the Standard & Poor price-earnings ratio?
Don't know offhand, but I'll guess it to be around 22 or 23 times earnings.
All right. Well, we'll be back in just a moment here with Bob Chapman. Well, Bob, you go right ahead. Sydney, what are your thoughts, and what are the important things that people should be looking at?
Well, if you're in the market, and you should be looking at what we were just talking about. And what's interesting here is that in the market and via the media nowadays, they don't talk about how much earnings are down from the previous year. They avoid that. They talk about how much earnings are up or down from the experts' estimates, and this is very misleading to people. And somewhere on the back page they'll say, well, the current P/E ratio of the S&P 500 is, and obviously it's too high. The market that we've seen is not unusual in a bear market. In 1931, we had a rally similar. Actually, we had three of them, and they ran 20 to 45% each. And of course, they went up and came back down again. And then after that, the markets eroded again and started to come unglued. And they never really recovered until in the late 40s. And even then, that was temporary. And so we're in a classic bear market. There's no question about it whatsoever. And the technical underpinnings have been damaged extremely. And it's going to take a long time and a lot of rebuilding to get that structure back in place again. And we don't know where that's going to begin. I could begin at 6,600, which I believe will be tested, having gone there not that long ago, just about 9 weeks ago. And usually markets always retest lows. It's seldom that they don't. And I would think that the market might have a very difficult time setting that second low at 6,600. The reason being, the dollar is coming down, interest rates are moving up. We have a lot of pressure on the fundraising of the Treasury Department. You have them in conjunction with the Federal Reserve putting in the Federal Reserve paying for bonds in the bond market by monetizing.
Hold that thought. Well, this is Dr. Stan, and of course, our guest this evening, Bob Chapman. And Bob is just talking about really what's happening is that the Treasury it has to borrow a massive amount of money because, of course, all the massive spending that we're doing. And, of course, President Obama says we have to have this spending to get us out of the hole we're got into by too much spending. And so we're going to, but then they have to raise the money as long as they're going to be spending it. And they're having difficulty raising this money. They're actually putting the money out, they're selling bonds, but of course they're having to really get a higher interest rate because people don't want to lend money to the United States. Not only that, but the Federal Reserve System is simply creating credit and buying the bonds. They're creating this money out of nothing to pay the debt. That's a pretty good trick when you can do it. I wish I could create money out of nothing and pay my debts.
You're right. All of us feel that way, and then again, life would probably be very boring. But we don't have enough revenue coming into the Treasury Department. They've already admitted they're going to have a deficit this fiscal year, which ends September the 30th of this year, and the figure is probably going to be $2 to $2.5 trillion. And so that's enormous. We've never come close to that before. There was one year we were 570 billion, and then we have the previous year, which was around 468 billion. And so 1.8 or 2.8 or 2.2 or 2.5 trillion is an enormous amount of money.